You ever get that weird feeling that history doesn't just repeat itself, but that it rhymes? Or maybe in your own life, you feel like you keep running into the same challenges or the same opportunities over and over again? Well, what if that's not just a feeling? What if it's a fundamental feature of how time actually works?
I mean, think about it. Maybe it's a string of jobs that always seem to start out great, but then end the exact same way. Or maybe it's relationships that just follow an identical script, but with different people. We all know this feeling, and we usually just brush it off as bad luck or a weird coincidence. But when these patterns keep showing up, it suggests something much deeper is going on, something we're only just beginning to wrap our heads around.
Okay, so let's get right into the core idea, because this changes everything. Our modern world has basically trained us to see time as a one-way street, like an arrow flying from a past we can't change into a future that's a total mystery. But ancient wisdom, from the Maya to Vedic traditions, saw it completely differently. To them, time was like a great big ocean with waves and cycles that connect the past and the future in this endless dance.
And this isn't just some abstract philosophy. You can actually see these repeating cycles, not just in our own lives, but on the huge stage of human history. These echoes from the past, they aren't just memories. They're like blueprints for what's coming next. And to really understand them, we have to go back to where the pattern first began.
So this is the first crucial concept, the seed event. Think of it as the moment a pattern is born. It's some powerful, emotionally charged experience that basically sets a template for the future. It could be a moment of incredible personal success or a really traumatic loss. For an entire nation, it could be an act of war or the signing of a peace treaty. This event plants a seed, and the conditions around it are pretty much destined to grow again.
Now, this whole phenomenon of repeating cycles that get stronger over time, it has a name, thanks to the work of Gregg Braden. He calls it fractal time. So let's break down what that actually means.
The key word to focus on here is intensity. See, a fractal pattern doesn't just repeat itself perfectly, like a carbon copy. It comes back stronger. The emotional charge, the stakes, the potential for big outcomes, it all gets amplified with each new cycle. The pattern stays the same, but somebody's turning up the volume.
And this is a brilliant way to picture it. A fractal is basically a pattern that looks the same no matter how much you zoom in or out. So imagine a coastline from space. You see this jagged, complex shape. Now, zoom in on just one bay, then a single rock on the shore. You see that same essential jagged pattern repeating at every single level. The theory is that time behaves in the exact same way.
So if time really does follow these predictable fractal patterns, the next question is pretty obvious, right? Can we read them? Can we actually calculate them? Well, the answer seems to be yes. Braden lays out a framework he calls the time code program to do exactly that. So, the program has 3 different modes. Mode 1 lets you look at an event from the past and figure out when those conditions are set to return. Mode 2 does the opposite. It lets you look at a future date and find the historical event that's acting as its blueprint. But honestly, for our purposes here, the most powerful one is Mode 3. Because it takes this huge cosmic idea and brings it right down to your own life.
All right, let's get practical, because this is where the theory stops being a theory and starts being a tool you can actually use. We're going to look at how you can start mapping out the very cycles that have been shaping your experiences your entire life.
And what's so amazing is how simple it is to get started. You don't need complicated astrological charts or a deep knowledge of history. All you need is one single number. Your age during a major seed event. That one moment of great success or heartbreak or big change that you've just never forgotten.
So here's the basic process from the book. First, you just identify your age at that seed event. Then, you use a mathematical constant that's found all over in nature. It's called the fire ratio, but you might know it as the golden ratio, to calculate a specific time interval based on that age. And finally, you just add that interval back to your original age. That's it. That tells you when the conditions of that seed event are set to echo in your life.
And check this out, because this is where it gets really interesting. This is the author's own example. He pinpointed a seed of a major accomplishment when he was 16. The calculations then predicted the conditions would come back around ages 25, 35, and 45. And look what happened. Each of those times lined up perfectly with a major career breakthrough, a direct echo of that original success.
And this right here is probably the most important thing to understand. This is not about telling your fortune. It doesn't predict you're going to get the exact same job or meet the exact same person. What it predicts is the return of the underlying conditions, that emotional and circumstantial climate. It tells you when the soil will be fertile again for a certain kind of growth, or when a storm is likely to be on the horizon. So if we can actually anticipate these cycles, what do we do with that knowledge? The point isn't to be a passive observer, just watching a pre-written destiny play out. No, it's about recognizing your moment of maximum power, your moment of choice. This quote, which is cited in the book, just perfectly captures this idea on a global scale. We are constantly arriving at these turning points, these choice points, where the future is literally up for grabs. And the exact same thing is true for you on a personal scale.
This question completely reframes everything. We tend to fear the end of things, right? The end of a job, a relationship, an era in our lives. But what if the end of a cycle isn't a termination? What if it's an opportunity? What if it's the single best moment you have to step in and consciously redirect the energy of the next cycle before it just starts on its own?
This is the really empowering message at the heart of fractal time. That point where one wave pulls back into the ocean and the next one hasn't formed yet, that is your point of greatest leverage. It's the moment when the old pattern is at its absolute weakest and a new one can be put in its place with the least amount of resistance. It's the choice point.
Okay, so let's put this all together. We know time is cyclical, we know patterns repeat with more intensity, and we know that the end of a cycle is a choice point. So, how do you actually create a new pattern for your future?
Well, it's really a four-part insight. First, nature itself shows us that a pattern will just keep going on autopilot until a new one is consciously put in its place. Second, the simple act of recognizing the pattern you're in, that's the key that unlocks your ability to influence it. Awareness is the gateway, and that gives you the chance to consciously wipe the slate clean of patterns that don't serve you anymore and to intentionally plant the seeds for healthy, new ones for the future.
And that brings us to the final, really powerful realization. You remember that seed event concept we started with? Well, it's not just something that happened in your distant past. Every single day, every single moment, you are planting seeds. Your present actions, your thoughts, your emotions, those are the seed events for the cycles that are going to define your future.
So the ultimate question this whole idea leaves us with is a deeply personal one. Knowing that the conditions you are creating right now will echo into your future with more and more intensity. What pattern are you seeding today?